Okay. All right. With that, the motion passes and the agenda is approved. Thank you, Naomi, for reminding me to record. We will go ahead and move on to the approval of the minutes as presented. Do we have a motion to approve? Okay. Motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
All right. Motioned and seconded. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate. All right. Please lower your hands. Those against approving the minutes, please indicate. And then those that wish to abstain, please indicate as well. Okay. Before we continue, I would like to mention that we have on the old business, we have the gold referendum, and that has been, we made a motion and passed it last time to make it anonymous. That vote anyway. Should you want other votes like the other referenda that are being presented to be anonymous, then a motion can be made at any time. You could just call for a point of order. But it doesn't have to be now. It can be right when we get to that point. Okay, so now we will go ahead and move on to public comment from GSA general membership, if there is any. Okay. With no public comment, we'll go ahead and move on. Any updates from funding? No? Okay. No updates. So then we will go ahead and move on to special presentations. Today we have some individuals from UCLA HSI that are here to provide some student town hall updates. And I can open the slides and just be your slide manager, if that's okay. Yeah.
And then just speaking into the mic, right?
Yeah, in the mic is fine.
Okay, cool. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for having us here. It's really great that we were able to get this done kind of last minute, so thank you. My name is Estrella Gutierrez. I am one of this year's HSI student liaisons, and I'm also here with Dr. Elizabeth Gonzalez, which is our HSI student, our HSI director. And we are here essentially to report back to you all about our most current HSI town hall. This happens pretty much annually since 2023, and we felt the need that it was really important to just share these updates with you all as well. But before that, we will get started with like a brief HSI 101, if that's okay.
Forgot that was me. Elizabeth Gonzalez, Director of HSI. We gave this presentation to USAC earlier this week, and we thought it would only be appropriate to also come to this body. So thank you again for your ongoing support. Some of you were there on the day of the town hall, and so I really, really appreciate that the support is both verbal, financial, and then embodied. So for those of you, just want to give you some context on HSI. HSI is part of a broader national movement to democratize education. And you know, the different minority serving institutions that fall under this are HBCUs, but there are, which are the most popular and most people hear about, but there are also these other federal designations like predominantly Black institutions that require 40% of undergrads to be self-identify as Black or African American. You also have the historical tribal colleges and universities. UCLA, as of 2024, is an federally recognized Asian American, Native American, and Pacific Islander institution, ANAPISI. And HSI, we are an emerging HSI, which, next slide, please, requires two things. Most people know about the 25% threshold requirement that 25% of undergrads self-identify as Latino. UCLA is on the cusp of meeting that federal requirement at 24.7. The other requirement that people know a little bit less about is that we're also required to enroll a critical mass, 37% of undergrads who are Pell eligible, so low income. UCLA is at 34%. And that requirement can be waived through an explanation of what we're going to do to increase it. And we've done that in the last couple of years. It is inevitable that UCLA will become an HSI given the demographics. LAUSD is 77% Latino. 1 in 2 UC eligible students in California are Latino. So when you think about 25%, it is literally the bare minimum. And so UCLA 7 years ago understood that this change is inevitable. And we could either lean into that change and prepare ourselves, or we would be summoned into that change. And so next slide, please. Chancellor Block, actually, before I get into what we're doing, next slide. These are all federal, right? But at the state level, because of the federal uncertainty around the support for MSIs, there has been an emergence of California designations. Last year this was in 2024, Senate Bill 1348 passed, which established a California Black Serving Institution designation. UCLA is eligible, but did not pursue that eligibility for particular reasons, which I'm happy to answer. It doesn't come with any funds, but it could eventually have funding allocation to it. So that has passed. 2 that I would encourage all of you to keep your eyes on are Senate Bill 1255, which would create an HSI designation in California, and Assembly Bill 2374, which would create a Asian American, Native American, and Pacific Islander designation and a PZ at the state level. And those were literally introduced last week. And so many of you are involved in advocacy, and that'll require our continued focus as well. So exciting things happening at the state level. Next slide. So UCLA, like I mentioned, Chancellor Block 7 years ago understood that this change is inevitable and that we would have to prepare ourselves. And he made a historic investment to support existing units who have traditionally served African American, Latino, and underrepresented students, including AAP, the Center for Community College Partnerships, the Chicano Studies Research Center, and then the creation of this role, the HSI director. The Latino Policy and Politics Institute was also supported. And then most recently, last year, the establishment and the unveiling of the Latino Success Center is also a mechanism to prepare ourselves to actually serve the strengths and the needs of this new demographic, of this changing demographic. And so that's a little bit about HSI and the campus-wide efforts. And I think on the next slide is when I turn it over to Estrella.
Yes, so now we'll be getting more into the town halls themselves. And so as you all can see here, we have had almost annually a HSI student town hall starting in 2023. And despite these having slightly different formats over the years, they have these 3 overarching goals, which is to center student voices with attention to students of color on what UCLA HSI status will mean for them. Update student body on HSI progress for that year, as well as building community among Latinx student orgs. And as you can kind of see, we have been able to partner with more and more Latinx student organizations when it comes to the planning process, involving them in how we shape this certain event. And with that, we have been able to achieve huge milestones thanks to the student voices that we have been able to get from these town halls. So starting off, as mentioned previously, the establishment of the Latinx Success Center in 2025. This was something that we saw as a priority after looking at the student input from the 2023 town hall. And with that kind of began the more intentional development process over the next 2 years. And with that, students were always at the forefront of what they wanted to see from the center, such as the town halls, 2023 and 2025, the summit, the LSC student survey, as well as the student collaboratives. All of these were really to just put students at the center and just to make sure that this center was going to serve them once it was established on campus. And then in 2025, what we saw was that due to the climate at the time and even now, a big priority from students was campus safety. And so what came out of that was the campus safety committee that our team has been involved in as well. And with that, recommendations from this town hall were given to the Office of Campus and Community Safety. Apart from that, special advisors from the chancellor were able to give these recommendations to the chancellor as well. And protocols were created for key campus events here at UCLA. And Dr. Salcedo and Dr. Kanamatute were also appointed to the Police Chief Advisory Board as well. And then for this most recent town hall, what we saw as the top priorities were resources and transparency, as well as interconnectedness. Next slide, please. And so overall, these were kind of the main student priorities from this year's town hall. We put them into kind of these main three things, which is student support, institutional transparency, and resource access. Just for brevity and for the sake of time, I'll only be really focusing on two of them out of the six, but feel free to look at them and ask any questions after this presentation. But first of all, I wanted to touch on increasing transparency in institutional and student funding. As well as resource distribution. So in the town hall, we were able to get student input through group dialogue, which as you can kind of see, people were in their tables, and each table had a specific topic from campus, such as campus and community safety, the LSC, academic advising, financial aid. And so with that, we saw that many students were talking about how they were wondering, we know that the institution gets money, but where is it going? Where is it being allocated? And there were a lot of questions about the transparency of this institution, as well as the funding provided, because they felt as though changes weren't necessarily being seen. And so this is something that was really on top of mind of students from this town hall. And then apart from that, there was also, as in the very bottom under resource access, establish a centralized and accessible resource hub to streamline information and expand access. UCLA is a very, very big school, and with that comes a lot of resources and help, which is very helpful for students, but because there is so much, sometimes information gets lost very easily. And students indicated that they felt that they would only find out about certain resources or types of support here on campus through word of mouth, or they needed to get an in to be able to access these resources. So they essentially felt like things were being gatekept from them, despite them being openly advertised and such, but just due to kind of the saturation of it all, it would get easily lost. And so with that, we felt like it was really, really necessary to find some way to have students be able to easily find these resources on campus to ensure that, the things that have been created on campus for students are actually serving them. And so even in the future, maybe even the institution can see that they are being utilized and hopefully have an easier time essentially to kind of like get the funding they need to continue operating. Next slide, please. And so with that, one of our next steps kind of relates to the last thing I just mentioned, which is our campus mapping project being led by our other amazing student liaison, Jocelyn Guzman. Their first meeting was held last Monday on the 24th and mainly consists of students, but as well as some staff on campus that are involved with some of the resource centers here on campus. And essentially the goal is to create an interactive map that contains a lot of the basic needs and student resources here on campus. And it's like another way, like previously mentioned, a resource hub to ensure that students are able to get access to these things and get the help they need while they're here in this campus. And so the current timeline projection is to have the pilot done by the summer. And so hopefully it could be used for orientation, because as students indicated too, they felt like even at orientations when they attended, they felt like they weren't necessarily able to get all the information they wanted out of it. And again, during the year, it was through word of mouth from other students and peers. Yes, next slide, please. And yeah, that was like our brief presentation. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope to stay connected with you all. Again, as mentioned earlier, thank you so much for those who attended and all the other graduate students who attended our town hall. We really feel like it's really important to have graduate students here as well, because they are students. And so we do want to make a more a bigger effort to have you all included. So yeah, thank you so much. And the next slide, please. Just a quick question slide, just in case, if anyone has any questions.
Do we have any questions from anyone on Zoom by chance? No? Okay. Well, many thanks to you, Estrella, and to you, Doctora Gonzalez, for you taking your time to present. We are very appreciative of your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So yes, that concludes our special presentations for today. I don't believe we have any new appointments, so we can just go ahead and move on to the officer reports. Again, in the interest of time and getting to the old and the new business, I recommend that I strongly recommend that these be as brief as possible. First, do we have any updates from our admin representatives? No? Okay, great. Then we will go ahead and move on to a report from our president, Naomi. Would you like me to open?
Yeah, if you can, that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay. And then down to week 7 we go. Or week 8, my bad. I forget. Okay. Hi, everybody. I hope you all are doing well in week 9 of winter quarter. Like Jay mentioned, this is our last meeting for GSA Forum for this winter. But in the past couple of weeks, we've just had a lot of meetings, especially in regards to housing transitions, thinking through different mitigation efforts that we have talked about with student affairs. As soon as we have updates, we've been meeting with transportation, getting all the stakeholders in the room finally. And so once we have updates, we'll be sure to share those. But we are definitely still thinking through what is best. But definitely the feedback survey that we sent out via our Instagram has gotten a lot of responses that have helped convey the grad image. Not the grad image, but the stories, the perspectives of students that are going through this crisis right now, which has been very helpful. We're going to be working with the Weyburn Student Association, Alexander, to put out another survey to gather some more details soon, in addition to just how best that students think that we can help them. Right. I don't want to pretend to know all the answers because I do not, especially as someone that's not going through it right now. But I want to make sure that we are elevating those voices in these rooms that we're in. Outside of that, we had a conference last week here at UCLA. It was called Hope Connects Us. As I think I have mentioned in previous meetings, I sit on the Suicide Prevention Committee here at UCLA. As we have had a rise in suicides this year among graduates and undergraduate students, this has been a committee that was put together to figure out what we can do to prevent that. And so we had basically a conference that brought together clinicians, administrators, and importantly, students to the table to think through different solutions of what we can do to help. And a lot of the conversations that came up surrounded the conversations that we have in these meetings surrounding basic needs and housing and stability that we need, frankly, that just aren't being met, which just exacerbate a lot of the mental health conditions that we see today. Besides that, a lot of other meetings, as you can see on the board. And then we're just, again, planning for the first week of spring quarter, which is going to be Graduate and Professional Student Appreciation Week. So we're starting to plan out events for that. Again, if you would like to plan an event, especially with GSA, we would love to collaborate with you in your various offices and councils. So please just let me know, reach out to me wherever, and we're happy to collaborate with you all. That's about it. And then we'll have some spring fireside chats coming up with Dean Kite and VC Gordon. So I will let you know and to get that on your schedules.
Okay. Thank you, Naomi. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to my report. I have a few things to mention to keep house in order. Let's see. There we go. Okay. All right. So I have been in contact with our elections commissioner, Kimia, and she's informed to me that only one council has provided a representative. And so, in the event, well, I guess this is the event that councils have not selected a sufficient number of representatives for the election board to have quorum, all requisition forms will have signatures withheld until those requirements are met. So a council that will select a representative can have that withholding removed. So if you want to just get back to getting those signatures processed as soon as possible, submit a representative, and Kimia will be in contact with me and my director of finance. So, and then that blanket withholding will be rescinded once the election board has sufficient number of representatives for them to have quorum, which is about 6, maybe 7. I'd have to confirm with Kimia, but please be in contact with her regarding election representatives. Also, in addition, some councils have failed to meet the 75% attendance requirement this quarter, as are specified in the codes, and they will be assigned a status of stage 1 inactivity. This is only probationary; nothing actually occurs at this point. But if councils continue to fail to meet those attendance requirements in consecutive quarters, then there will be more serious consequences, and eventually potentially leading up to dissolution and reallocation of funds to other councils. Let's see. Also, in anticipation of the final academic quarter coming up, I would ask that each council just ensure that new or continuing delegates are selected, and that information is provided to me for the upcoming academic year. I would much prefer to avoid trying to scramble and assemble quorum in the weeks before the fall quarter starts. Just making sure that that's kind of in place in time for end of this academic year, but also just getting ready for potential things that we may have planned for you over the summer. So please take care of that in as timely a manner as possible, and please handle that in as a democratic way as well. Next thing I wanted to mention was, should we, I've proposed some changes, additional changes to the GSA codes. If those are passed, then they will be known from today as the GSA bylaws, and that's just to be in best keeping with parliamentary best practices. There are also other changes, and I can briefly touch on those, but I won't do so at this point. Additionally, my last thing I wanted to mention is that the Humanities Council has been determined to be fully inactive within GSA, and so I won't be doing it this time today in the interest of time, but at the beginning of next quarter, I will call to begin the process of dissolution and reallocation at the beginning of next quarter. And there are procedures for that, and I can go over that when we have more time at the beginning of spring quarter. So that concludes my report. We can go ahead and move on to Satara, and I can open up the slides or your report for you as well, if you'd like. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I just have a short update. So first, wanted to update you all that myself, Jack, and GSRC are all working on a final study jam, and that's going to be next week on Thursday on the 12th. That's going to be 2 to 6 p.m. in SAC room 4. So if any of you are interested, you can go ahead and RSVP for that or send that out to your peers. Another update is that in the beginning of spring quarter, I'm going to be collaborating with the GSRC as well for Grad Professional Student Appreciation Week. And that's just going to be a breakfast event currently planned on April 2nd, but more details for that soon. And my last update is that I'm currently working or have a survey for students that are in dual degree programs. And I just wanted to get more of their input on course registration. So I have the form here, then I'll also email that out to the delegates as well. If you can just share that to any dual degree students you know, please send it to them, just because I do want to see their needs and see just kind of their opinion on course registration and how that's been going for them. And that's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Satara. All right, Jack, I can go ahead and open up your report as well.
Hello? Hello? Okay. Can you go to the winter?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So one quick big announcement. We're heading to DC in April. So the UC Graduate Professional Council, there will be a travel grant application that is currently open. You will be reimbursed up to this amount for any eligible and approved expenses. And I will also set a certain amount of funds to support your travel as well if you would like to join us. So it will be sent out next week in GSA newsletter and my Instagram. So quick updates related to UCLA relations. Last month, I attended the monthly meeting with the chancellor, USAC and GSA. We talked about all these issues. On my end, I talk about the SB 895, the scientific research funding bond that we've been advocating for, and other strategies to, to strengthen UCLA scientific research funds. And later attended this student group organization event as a speaker to talk about some of the work we've been doing related to immigration, undocumented, and international student protection. And had a check-in meeting with USAC EVP. We wanted to do a governor candidate forum event in May. Stay tuned. It will be very interesting. And some other events, some other meetings as well. So UC Relations attended the board meeting with UCGBC last month and met with Sonia and Naomi to talk about Broom Fresh, some of development this past Monday. And also today attended the UCGBC Graduate Student Advocate Seminar event on March 5th today. So, big highlight below in the state relations over the past Monday to Wednesday. Jay, can you scroll down?
Yes, yes.
Sorry. I feel like I should have screen shared. Scroll down to the state relations.
UC relations, or should I go further?
State relations, next page, please.
Oh, sorry, my apologies.
Okay, so yeah, this is great. Thank you, Jay. So over the past Monday, 3 days from Monday to Wednesday, I led a delegation of 6 UCLA graduate students, graduate and professional students to Sacramento. We engage in direct policy advocacy in partnership with UC Graduate Professional Council, and we talk about a range of issues, and you can look at our priorities in my Leave Behind document, in that Google document. And we also were recognized by the speaker and assembly members of the bar as an organization on the floor. That was very awesome. And yeah, so we met with the chair, the chief of staff to the Senate Education Chair and the chief of staff to Assembly Higher Education Chair to talk about the state budget from the governor proposal. We also talk about the SB 895, the research state bond bill. We've been advocating for something in clear alignment with UC as well. And we also talk about some other priorities for student protections. And yeah, so it was a really awesome opportunities. So there were 6 students from UCLA. One of them is the council delegate, Shakaya from law school. She's here and in the room in person. And I think we learned a lot. And such an initiative should be continue forward next year for the future GSA. Yeah, so other than that, I don't have any updates related to federal or local relations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so that concludes our officer reports. So we will go ahead and move on to old business. The only item we have in old business is the gold referendum. I do know that we have some brief updates, or I guess updates to the materials that were provided last time, but I have some slides here. So are they similar to what they were last time by chance? Okay. I guess if you just want to go over those few tweaks, because it should be fresh in our memory. Yeah, and I'll open it up as well for you all.
So, thank you for the forum for inviting us and to talk about the gold referendum. I'm David Martinez. I am a graduate student representative at ASU/UCLA's Board of Directors. I'm in the Mechanical Engineering Department.
Yeah. Hi, folks. Good evening. Thank you for lending us the space to be here with you all. I am here also on behalf of ASU/UCLA's Board of Director as a graduate representative. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Education here on campus.
So just to go through these slides really quickly, since we've already seen a lot of this, if we head to page 4, just a quick overview of the 3 programs we wish to fund with this $13 fee would be $5 towards the Graduate Scholarly Fund, the Students Support Service and Spaces, and the Graduate Engagement and Transition programs. Then if you head to slide 5, please. We just wanted to make sure to clarify that these numbers on this slide are after the 25% return to aid is taken from the allotted amount. And so these are the numbers that will be reserved for these programs solely. And most of everything else is the same.
Okay, great, great. Then I guess, do we have any, if everything else is the same, do we have any questions from our delegates?
Oh, actually, one more.
Is one more thing?
Sorry,
Okay.
one more thing. So then we also just enumerated a bit more the engage. If you go to slide 8.
Okay, so this is 5s. This one, correct?
Yes. So we just put the just enumerated more about this transition program into words for you all to see. So we did talk about that GSRC will be working in tandem with us and departments to be able to build orientation and better introductions for new incoming graduate students. And so we just have this slide here just to enumerate some of those bullet points that we mentioned: the graduate student professional orientation support, the structural transitioning program, new professional development workshops, more community building initiatives across disciplines, and then more be able to navigate resources better across campus, hopefully through this program.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any quick clarifying questions from forum members, either here in person or on Zoom? Yes.
I just had one question on the gold referendum. Like, have you seen a lot of support from students? I guess what has sort of been the perception of the referendum, like from the student community? Were they the ones to push for it originally, or like, yeah, if you can expand on that, that would be helpful.
Yes. So we did a lot of listening sessions and talking to graduate students in terms of what are the issues they're currently having in this current environment. A lot of it came up to be lack of funding for research, lack of funding within departments. That was the most the gripes we heard about along those lines. And so the largest support for this referendum is the Scholarly Research Fund, the one for research publications and travel, is the one we see the most support for.
Great. We actually have a question from the chat. And also, if you could keep the mic a little bit closer to your mouth, it's a little hard to hear. But the question from Zoom is, if I remember correctly, you mentioned that we have to submit an application to receive the funds for like travel. Who reads the applications?
So yes, we will be giving the money to GSA, and GSA will be having a application basis through their academics affairs department. And so you'll be applying for this money, whether it be for poster registration, conference registration, maybe reimbursement for travel. It'll go through GSA, their department, and they'll distribute it as needed.
I can also briefly touch on that process. I used to sit on USAC as Academic Affairs Commissioner with Naomi, actually. And if you all are familiar with their funding bodies, they have something similar. It's called the Travel Grant Mini Fund, so TGMF, and also the Academic Success Referendum Fund, ASRF. These funds would run similarly in hopes, right? So that students could apply to get reimbursement for conference registration fees or travel or any other associated costs that come with being a doctoral student. That's governed by USAC. But in this case, it would be governed by GSA.
And would I be guaranteed to get those funds?
So there's no guarantee because there is a finite amount of money. So it's all dependent on what they prioritize and the decision process.
I see. Okay. We have another question. Yes.
Is the decision process?
Currently, we haven't decided upon the decision process. So we will be working probably in tandem with GSA in terms of developing what is the criteria for the application.
I can speak also from experience having facilitated those funding bodies that, and you all are welcome to also look up the funding guidelines online for USAC. I imagine it would be something similar, but those guidelines stipulate certain allocations per item. So for example, students would qualify to get, I think it was about like $200 or depending on like mode of transportation, how much is appropriately allocated if you were to travel to a conference by bus or by Uber or by plane. So there's like certain allocations that are also determined by UCLA's like financial jurisdictions as a whole, if I recall correctly. But typically, students would submit an application. The application would have to be submitted 2 weeks before the travel date that they're applying for or like whatever activity they're trying to engage in. Then the individual office, so in this case, perhaps like your academic affairs office, would review that application, get back to the student, decide how much funding they're able to allocate in terms of like the statements and the financial proof that they're able to provide at the time of their application too.
Yes. Naomi?
Oh, yeah, just to add to that, it's kind of how we have our discretionary funding application as of right now. Like I have a specific director that is in charge of reviewing the applications. We review it blind, so he doesn't see the name of those organizations, right? Doesn't matter what topic you are going for a conference for. And then as Danny was saying, UC Office of the President also has kind of these stipulations around transportation. So depending on if you are within like a 50-mile radius, they might require you to rent a car versus like book a flight. And so there are those parameters already kind of placed. And so in the application, we would just be kind of gathering information about, okay, what's the itinerary? How far are you traveling? Do you have the flight? Like all those things just to make sure that, okay, we can award you this money. It's kind of like a checks and then as for guaranteeing, again, it really is just because there's only like a finite amount of money. And so it's just to make sure that we can equitably be able to distribute the funds amongst our graduate population. But this has been run before on different levels and in different departments. So I'm sure we will be able to do something similar.
Okay, thank you. So we have another question and then we have a comment. Are travel funds dispersed proactively or retroactively in reimbursement? If in reimbursement, are there any planned measures to reduce the burden of upfront costs on traveling students?
I would say that that would also be within the discretion of the office within GSA that were to administer the fund. I can also speak from experience that depending on how far in advance students would submit their application, and also what student government accounting's office had the capacity to do, we had some instances where my office was able to allocate the funding proactively through the form of like a money order or retroactively through the form of a reimbursement check.
I see. Okay. And then comments. So I just feel funky putting money into a pot where I'm not guaranteed to get it back. Thank you for presenting, though. Yeah. Do you have a response to that?
Hopes would be that. This doesn't work. Or can you all hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine.
Okay. I think the hopes would be that students would see these funds enhance their student experience in some way, somehow. The support fund for conference and travel costs is one of the things that this referendum fee would cover. But if there's other items too, such as sustaining support, student support services within Kirchhoff's operations, Ackerman's operations, staffing, right, other ASUCLA facilities that we view as important aspects of our experience here as students, as well as graduate engagement and transition programs. So anything from like the services that the GSRC offers to orientations that help graduate students feel like they're a part of the community and acclimating in that process so that they could garner a sense of belonging and persistence during their journeys as graduate students here, right? So I understand with the, particularly when it comes to the conference costs and travel, that is a really appealing factor. And unfortunately, it is finite. But we do hope that students across campus would be able to benefit some way, somehow from this referendum.
Thank you. Let's see. Oh, I don't believe we have any further questions from Zoom. So in the interest of time, I'm actually going to call a point of order. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to recall for attendance to ensure that we have quorum to be able to vote on the referendum and also the new business. So if you refer back to your, let's see, if you refer to the attendance sheet that you signed in, you will need to sign in, let's see, here we go. There's a new column added, column E. This is a recall for attendance. So you can put Y, you can actually put whatever you'd like. An email would be also totally fine, but this is just to indicate that you are present and that we have sufficient people to vote on the referenda that are being presented today. And once we know we have sufficient for quorum, then we will go ahead and move forward in that process. So if you go to the GSA forum, the agenda, there's a link to the attendance sheet on page 4. So it's the same where you signed in earlier. So you'll just add a Y for just ensuring that you're here attending at this point in the meeting. Okay. All right, we have sufficient for quorum. We are able to vote on the referendum. So for referenda to pass, we require a 2/3 of vote cast, correct? No? Okay, great. So majority, great. Then in that case, what I'm going to do is I will open up the anonymous voting form. Oh, yes.
This is a vote to put this on the ballot for the graduate student body to decide.
Yes. Yeah. So we are not enacting the agenda tonight. This is just to bring it to the ballot for the graduate students to decide. And for that to pass, you need at least 10% of the graduate student body to vote on that. Okay. All right. So I am going to. Oh, yes. 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 Yeah. So it's published. I've just copied. Oh, my. Anyone. Yes. Correct. All right, anyone with the link. Okay. So I'm going to take that. Okay. So that link should be published. So you will go ahead and use that form to vote anonymously, and we will keep that, in our records. Oh, yes, I can also send the link in the Zoom chat. Yeah. Okay. Will you check? Six responses. Okay, great. All right, we will be continuing to wait for responses. We have 9 responses. We should expect 17. So anonymous to, well, like we have to verify it somehow. That's, yeah. So that's anonymous up to collection. Oh, my apologies. Oh, okay. I'm gonna stop sharing screen in the meanwhile. We have 12 responses. I believe we need 17 at least. Okay, 14. We're waiting for a few more. Okay, I think we have enough. Yes, okay. Great. All right. After receiving the votes, we have received, well, we have 15 responses. We wait for the last two? I don't think it will change numerically the result. Yeah, yeah. No. Okay. So yes, I guess the race is called, you could say. Yeah, so with 86.7% of votes in favor of passing the motion, and 13.3% against, the motion passes and the referendum will be brought to the ballot in this election cycle. All right. Many thanks to those of you from the Gold Referendum and ASUCLA for all your support and taking your time to present to us. Thank you. All right. And so then the work is beginning, I should say, getting that to pass. All right. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. I'll close that. Great. All right. So so now will have new business. So first we have some GSA constitutional amendments. Jessica, if you would like to comment on that.
Yes. So, similarly to your referendum process, in order to make changes to your GSA constitution, it also needs to go on the ballot during election cycle for the student body to vote on. So, this first document is a summary of all of the changes that we're proposing. If you all recall, I think maybe in fall quarter, we had given an update that we contracted a parliamentarian to do a thorough review of your codes and your constitution to verify like consistency with ASUCLA, UCLA, and UCOP policy, as well as parliamentary procedure best practices. So these are some of the changes from that. And I can run through these really quick. Hopefully you all have had a chance to look at them. The first is removing membership fees from your constitution. That's not the appropriate place for it to go. And since your fees, one of your fees adjusts for inflation, that information is provided by the university. It doesn't go in your constitution. So that's the main strike through, is removing the section that talks about your fees. Additionally, it also includes amending the name of your codes to bylaws, and that's again per parliamentary best practice, like Jay was mentioning, for consistency, to just call them bylaws, as that's what they function as. So there's some changes there. The additional section E is talking about minimum number of delegates. I think those are your changes, Jay. So I don't know if you
Yes.
speak to those ones.
Yeah. So it's just to ensure that there's a consistency between the bylaws and the Constitution to ensure that attendance requirements are met and required across our governing documents. This also includes just saying that the bylaws will provide the procedures for determining council's inactivity and sort of dissolution or reallocation. And then also, should the councils want to create a new council, then the forum can follow procedures that are outlined in the bylaws as well.
And then the next section for forum is being more clear that there are voting delegates and there are also non-voting members. So all of your executives are members of forum, but they do not vote. So it's just clarifying that. And additionally adding information about the Student Interest Board. Let's see.
I think that's...
And then non-voting members, again, it's just articulating who those non-voting members are.
Officers. Yeah, the rest are just adding or small strike throughs. Inclusive pronouns instead of his or her.
But yeah,
I think yes. And then the last
of it.
Yeah, the last is more funds and like money related stuff.
Yes. Yes. So the last section was added and was never formally accepted into your constitution, so it probably should have never been there. But it's just about transfer of funds, which doesn't really apply because student government accounting is your accounting body for GSA, and ASUCLA manages all of those funds. So this is not really applicable to your student fees.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So with that being presented, are there questions, comments, concerns about the amendments that are proposed? There's a band, big loud band outside on the Bruin Plaza, but we will move forward. We will soldier on. So if that's the case, we can vote to or have a motion just to vote on the constitutional amendments. Again, this would not actually enact them and as a change. This would have to be brought before the student body in the election cycle, and we would have to meet the requirements as with referenda. So we would just need a motion to vote. Great. Motion to vote. Do we have a second? Okay, motion and seconded. All those in favor of approving the constitutional amendments for the election ballot, please indicate. All right, 4 in person. How many online? 8. Okay, 12. All right, 7. Okay. All right. Then please lower your hands. All right. All those against the constitutional amendments as proposed, please indicate. Okay. And those that wish to abstain from the vote, please indicate. Okay, 1 abstain. All right. With that, the motion passes, and the GSA constitutional amendments will be brought towards the student body for this election cycle. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and move on to our next bit of new business. So these are some revisions of the GSA codes. So I had mentioned some changes that I made. Mine's quite extensive, so I'll actually pass to Satara first, since she has some minor updates as well. So I'll open up those right here. And Satara, I'll let you comment on those.
Sounds good. Okay, so my codes or my changes are essentially for code.
Satara, we can't hear you. I apologize.
Does it work now? Okay, okay, it works now. So my changes are for code 5.13 and then code 11.4. So essentially, like, not altering 5.13, but kind of adding a sub like code or heading underneath it, which I named 5.14. And essentially what this is saying is that it's about the Graduate Writing Center Oversight Committee. And this committee, the code or the code or charter for it already exists, but it's placed at the bottom of the GSA codes. So I just wanted to add something kind of outlining in the VPAA rules for appointments, kind of just making them aware in the codes that they do need to be doing appointments for this. And this change, this addition is kind of just letting them know, oh, like once the VPI is completed the seating of the council delegates for the academic year, then you, the VPAA, should reach out to them and basically like ask them for making your appointments for each council for this oversight committee. So kind of just making them aware and then basically adding that 5.14 addition and then moving everything down. And then the other part, 11.4, essentially in the bottom of the GSA codes, there's 2 charters for the GWC Oversight Committee. And this one is the outdated charter. So it kind of, for example, it's mentioning that the chair of this committee is the VPI, when in reality it's my position. And then Code 31 has the updated charter underneath. So in this proposal, it's just asking to remove that whole outdated charter, the 11.4. And that's the only changes that I'm making to the GSA codes. Does anyone have any questions or any comments about that?
Okay, if there is no comment, I'll briefly talk about the changes that I made. So mine is a lot of whittling down. I also, in the process of renaming the codes to the bylaws, had to go through and find every instance of codes and change it to bylaws. So it's a little bit tedious, as you'll notice. And then a lot of the remainder of it is a lot of whittling down the language because we have outdated lists of departments under councils, and as you may have noticed, we've had some issues with that in the past. So that's the majority of that, and I won't be able to go into much further detail than that, but yeah, we can always, the codes are always something that it's a living, breathing document. We can change that as a forum as needed. Are there questions about any of the sets of revisions that we have presented so far? Okay. If there are no questions, then we'll just need a motion to vote on the revisions to the GSA codes as presented. Okay, motioned and seconded. All right, all those in favor of voting in favor of these revisions, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, 4 in person, 8, 9. Okay, that's 13. Okay, great. 10. All right, please lower your hands. Those that wish to vote against, please indicate. All right, please lower your hands. And then those that wish to abstain, please indicate. Okay, 1 abstain. All right, with that, with majority vote, the motion passes and the GSA bylaws are now updated up to signatures and processing, of course. So then now we'll go ahead and move on to our the geography department reallocation. So I will go ahead and open this up. Now, as you may have recalled, the geography PhD program they were under the impression that they were with the Social Sciences Council, but it turns out that by apportionment, they were located under Math and Physical Sciences. And so following the procedures outlined in the GSA bylaws, they have obtained over 50% of their signatures from their graduate student body in this particular program and department, so that they can be removed from the Math and Physical Sciences Council and moving to the Social Sciences Council. Do we have representatives from the geography program here? Oh, yes, hello. Yes, would you have any comment that you would like to make to us? No? Okay, great. Then following the procedures in the GSA bylaws, I would like to give the Math and Physical Sciences Council a chance to speak should they have any concerns about this reallocation.
I'm a representative from Math and Physical Sciences. We don't have any issues with this.
Okay, great. Thank you. If there are no further concerns, then we would just need a motion to vote to accept this petition. Okay, motioned and seconded. All right, all those in favor of accepting the petition for the Geography PhD Council to change, please indicate. All right, we have 2. All right, and then 10, 9. Okay. All right, please lower your hands. Okay. And then those that wish to vote against this petition, please indicate. All right, those that wish to abstain, please indicate. Okay, then with that, the motion passes and the Geography PhD program shall be moved and reallocated to the Social Sciences Council. I would recommend, coordinating very closely with student government accounting to ensure that things are apportioned accordingly. All right, and thank you. Thank you for taking the time to do that. I know it wasn't easy. Okay, great. And so now we have our final point of on the agenda in new business. It's the Brew and Fresh referendum. Now I believe we have Regent Sonia Brooks here to speak a little bit about that. I know you presented on it earlier this or last quarter. So if you would like to make some brief comments or address questions, yes, you can sit wherever you like and yes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time. I won't be long before you, but I would like to preface this by stating that I'm not just a student regent, but someone who understands what food insecurity actually looks like. So I'm going to start very, very simple. Food insecurity is not rare at UCLA. It's not a fringe issue, and it's not about poor choices. It's basically about cost. Students are paying record high housing prices, record food prices, and trying to persist academically at a world-class institution. And some of our peers are quietly skipping meals, saying, oh no, I'll eat later. No, I already ate, so I'm not that hungry. And some are working 2 jobs, some are choosing between groceries and textbooks. Bruin Fresh exists to close the gap between barely qualifying for help and actually being okay. So, what is Bruin Fresh? Bruin Fresh is a supplemental food only support program administered by now UCLA Basic Needs, and it's coordinated with financial aid structured to comply with university and federal regulations, and it is modeled after the program Aggie Fresh, currently at UC Davis. What it is not is a replacement for CalFresh, a duplication of food pantries, a public benefits program, or a cash grant. It is structured, controlled, food-only support system, and this affects more graduates than we think. It affects first generation, low income, transfer, students supporting family members, students who work while enrolled, and students who do not quite qualify for CalFresh. And so what does the structure look like? There are basically 2 components. The first phase is a card-based supplemental benefit, and it is restricted use for food only. It's a monthly benefit, financial aid coordinated for this phase, and it's audit ready and compliant. And so this is where we start. Phase 2 is the Bruin Fresh mobile phase. And this is a mobile food distribution model, and it's in preparation, or excuse me, partnerships with meal preparation, and its targeted outreach is to now will be graduate students because of the displacement of graduate students from UCLA proper to 5 to 8 miles away from campus right now. This mobile model is especially important for graduate students, again, parenting students, and students who commute. And it really ensures equity and access. So transparency is for cost is the proposed fee is $5 per quarter. This is definitely less than a cup of coffee in Westwood, and 25% of that is returned to financial aid. And as I mentioned before, this program will not only include graduate students, but it will also be intentional about including graduate students. And it's not about creating a large program. It's just about building a stable and sustainable foundation. We're not asking for emergency funding. We are asking for and creating infrastructure. So why a referendum? Well, I'm glad that you asked great questions on a Thursday evening. The referenda will allow students to decide. It will be student directed, and funding creates accountability. Short-term grants are unstable, and if you participate in Bruin 1, you may not ever see the grant. And basic needs cannot rely on crisis-based fundraising. This is about long-term sustainability. And another question that you might ask is, why not expand the pantry? Why not ask administration to fund it entirely? Well, food insecurity is structural. The university does invest in basic needs. However, it is based on the budget and does not always reach students who need them most. So with Bruin Fresh, the student-directed program, it allows us to scale responsibility, control governance, build in student oversight, and ensure long-term continuity. This is really about shared responsibility. And it also allows us to have quarterly internal reviews, annual reporting, fiscal separation of duties, compliance monitoring, and transparent oversight structures. And so at its core, again, Brew and Fresh is not about food per se. It is about academic persistence. You cannot talk about equity if students are hungry. You cannot talk about belonging if students are choosing between groceries and tuition. The initiative says something basic and simple. No Bruin should have to choose between food and education. And we have the opportunity as students to really lead on that. So my closing is if we can build labs, research centers, structures, stadiums, and the whole nine, we can definitely build a system that ensures our peers and students are fed. And I close. Thank you. And for questions, I guess.
Yes, thank you. I actually do have a quick question. So you mentioned that this referendum or this initiative is not exclusive to graduate students, but it is intentional about them. Does that mean that there's maybe an equivalent referendum that's being sort of passed through USAC and so that the undergraduate student body is also would also contribute to this initiative?
Very good question. Actually, no. USAC has decided not to move forward with this referendum. And so at this point, if GSA does move forward, this will be a graduate-only program at this point, which I think is really timely, especially with the displacement of graduate students in housing. So it really helps to identify, not only identify, but really help to minimize food insecurity, especially so far away from campus. And I don't know if you want me to get a little bit more specific about it, I can.
That's okay.
Totally
I
up to
think
you.
as long as you've clarified that this would then just be a graduate student benefit.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes, we have a question.
Hi, thank you so much. Two questions for you. So I was looking at the point B, where it's the 25% of the amount collected for the referendum would be returned to UCLA students in the form of financial aid. What is happening to the other 75%? Is that
That goes directly to the program. So
Okay.
that, yeah, so that's what's
and
being
then
used, yeah.
25 is going to
Back to return the aid, yes.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And then what's sort of the logistics behind this? Are students going to get a card similar to CalFresh? Like, I mean, I'm sure sort of banking and all of that would be, a lot of process. So what's your if you can kind of talk through the plan, that would be
Absolutely,
helpful.
absolutely. And that's why I was kind of alluding if, you wanted me to get through into the weeds. But yes, so very great question. And to answer it, it's the first phase is a card and it's a Visa card, basically. So we are looking to partner with Westcom or University One. And I just learned that US Bank is also interested in partnering with us. So they would provide a Visa card, which really cuts down on the stigma that can be associated with using an EBT card. So if students want to, let's just say, go to dinner with, friends and so on and so forth, they don't have to experience the embarrassment of using a card. And the cards are really cute. They have UCLA Bruins across them. They're really, really cute. And so it will also provide a monthly stipend for groceries that is similar to CalFresh. And the only thing with that is the funds don't roll over. So if you don't use them in that particular month, they will go back into the fund. And there was another question that you asked, and I'm sorry, I wanted to make certain that I address it.
No, I think you addressed it.
Okay.
And I'm assuming the application process would be similar to CalFresh then?
Perfect. So how the process works is if a student is or doesn't qualify for CalFresh and it's, based on a threshold, they will then be directed to Brew and Fresh. And then they complete a questionnaire. because intentionally, the program was created for undocumented and international students. And then with now the federal environment that we're in, we could not indicate only those two populations. Plus, those two populations aren't the only ones that are also experiencing food insecurity. So it is really a blanket for students who need it to apply. So again, so CalFresh denies them. They come to Bruin Fresh, fill out the questionnaire, and basically are administered this card. As long as they're not making, $10,000, $5,000 a month, I think they'll be cool. Okay. But again, there is a threshold. And so that process will sit under the ECRT team. Thank you, because me and acronyms don't get along. And so that's where it sits. And then that card will be used or can be used monthly. And yeah.
And about how much money will students have
Mhm.
for groceries?
So again, it's equivalent to CalFresh. So it's around 290, 291, and that will be per month. Mhm.
Okay. Yes, Naomi, go ahead.
Okay. I also just wanted to add that ever since the resolution that was first actually proposed to GSA last academic year, I know Sonia's been really working on this, has been talking to all the campus partners, has been talking to folks that serve on the regents, has been really been intentional about structuring this program. It's not something that's coming out of like blue, like it's not something that's just coming out of thin air. There's actual plans that have been put in place. She has actually talked to administration about this, and they are ready to implement it. So I don't want folks to just think that this is something like hearsay of what we can do. It's actually like in the works. And so this would be something that we would really want up and running by next academic year, right? And so I really think this could help grad students, especially as we don't have many things that are just for us, to be real, especially thinking about this housing situation that we're going through right now. So I think this would be a really great way to help alleviate the burden that many grad students face.
Thank you for saying that, Naomi. And again, it's really to ensure the sustainability of the program, especially for students who not only really need it, but also for the longevity of the program as well, right? So I'll leave it there unless anyone else has questions, comments, or concern. But be nice.
Any comments or questions from the people on Zoom? Okay. Then with that and the conclusion of that presentation, we can now move this to a vote. I would like to mention, should the voting members of this forum like it to be anonymous, a motion can be made to make it so. Or if you want to just move straight to a vote, that is also totally fine. That is entirely up to you as delegates. What's that motion to vote? Okay, not anonymous then. Okay, motion to vote.
Seconded.
Motioned and seconded. All right. All those in favor of voting on passing the Bruin Fresh referendum to put it on the election ballot, please indicate by raising your hand. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a question in the chat about Bruin Fresh. I missed that. Is there a question? I missed it. Okay, I'm gonna finish the vote. Yeah. It's in the Q&A. Oh, it just popped up though. Hold on. Okay. Anyway, so do I just finish the? All right. All right. We're gonna finish the vote then. Please lower your hands. All those against the Bruin Fresh referendum, please indicate. And then all those that wish to abstain, please indicate. Okay, well, there's a majority vote, so I believe that passes. So, yes, we do have a question though. What's that? No, it's okay. Yeah. All right, so the Q&A. So, do you have to have a rejected CalFresh app?
Great question. Um, that is part of the process, only because we're really trying to ensure that students who do qualify for CalFresh get it. And so they won't have to go through another process. So that's kind of like one of the main requirements. However, based on, whatever the situation is, that would be a process that the ECRT team will follow to identify eligibility if they decide not to go through CalFresh or do that as the first step.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope that answers the question. If not, they can reach out.
I believe so, yes. Thank you. Students with immigration cases cannot even apply to CalFresh or it will be detrimental to their case.
Absolutely. That is why this program is going to be very much unique. Our demographic, UCLA's demographic is different than other campuses. So we're really trying to fine tune it and gear it towards the needs of our students and our population. So we've had it approved by UCOP, the verbiage and everything else, and this is a weekly process that we're going through to ensure that it meets, like it states, all federal and institutional regulations as well, so no one is in trouble.
Okay. Thank you. I hope that addresses the concerns in the Q&A. All right. So, with that, the vote has passed. The Bruin Fresh referendum will also be put on the ballot to the student body this election cycle. Before we have a motion to adjourn, I would like to briefly comment and say, we have made another step forward in many of these changes. The work is just beginning. So ensure that your constituents are participating in this election cycle. The democratic process is something that we value greatly here at GSA. So make sure that people are aware and passionate and participating, and we move forward from there. That concludes our items on the agenda for today. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, motion to adjourn. Motioned and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning, please indicate. Great. Please lower your hands. Those against? All right. Those that wish to abstain? Okay. The motion passes and the meeting is adjourned. Many thanks to you all, and I will see you next quarter. Thank you. That's very kind of you.